Welcome to the Real Estate Asset Management Podcast, brought to you by Break of Day Capital. The show focuses on educating syndicators and apartment owners on how to build systems and manage their properties more efficiently to become a best-in-class operator. 100% straight talk. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Asset Management Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky. This podcast is focused on educating operators, building better systems, and becoming a best-in-class operator. Be sure to join our Facebook group, Asset Management Mastery, where we have a great community of thousands of like-minded individuals sharing resources and best practices. Today on the podcast, we have my friend Chris Bystriansky. Chris, can you start by telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Gary. So I am a real estate investor in the multifamily space, invested in properties across Texas and Florida. I'm a former corporate longtime employee. I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I got a great education, got a great corporate job, and was unfulfilled. So I broke away from that to start investing and really taking control of my life and my finances. So appreciate it, Gary. Happy to be here. Happy to help out.
Yeah, awesome. So today we're not going to be talking about asset management in particular, but something that relates to it very well. And Chris took part of a life-changing event that will pay huge dividends in his business and life. So Chris, why don't you tell the listeners about the event and why you chose to partake in it?
Yeah. So the event was called the 29029, and that number refers to the height of Mount Everest. And just from a high level perspective, what happens is people get together on a mountain and ascend the mountain the number of times it takes to equal the height of Mount Everest. So 29,029 feet. You start in the morning, early morning, about 6 a.m. You hike up, take the gondola down, and repeat. And you've got 36 hours to climb that number of times it takes. I participated in one outside Salt Lake City recently, and it was 13 ascents to equal the 29,029 feet. And the reason I started doing things like this, and whether it's this or an Ironman or what have you, is that about 4 or 5 years ago, I used to have this concept of just being in my box. You know, I would have a corporate career and just work, and I would be put off by a lot of different things. And just the first thought that would pop into my mind when somebody would mention something different would be like, that's crazy. I could never do that. I would never do that. Why would anyone do that? And then I started to think about, well, why do I have that approach? I'm really limiting what's going on in my life simply by my mindset. So I had this, I don't know if it was an epiphany or just a change in mindset of, you know what, instead of saying no right away or rejecting that right away, I started to think about, well, maybe I don't want to do that now, but if I did want to do that, how would I do that? And what would I do? So I began to look for things to do differently in my life. Whether that's investing in apartments, looking into other real estate assets, doing these crazy events. I used to do some long distance bike rides, and now, I heard about this 29029 event, and I jumped right into that. And I recently completed an Ironman, and all these things 5 years ago would have been, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. People are insane who do that. But now I'm looking for different things to do just to enrich myself and really to think about things differently, to really approach life differently and really look for ways to expand my mindset and do fun and exciting things.
I love it. People get intimidated by things. They're not the smartest in the room. They're not the best athlete, whatever it is. There's always these excuses, but you don't have to be any of those things and be super successful. Why not you? Why not me? Anyone can do these things. You just have to try.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And let me just start with a story like this. When I started training for an Ironman, I joined a triathlon group, which is what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to surround yourself with people who are good and successful in that area. And we went for a bike ride, and I considered myself a decent cyclist, Gary. All right. It was supposed to be a 60-mile ride. 10 miles into this ride, I couldn't see anybody else. They were gone, and they left me in the dust. I got dropped. It was so embarrassing, but it's a lesson. I just kept training, kept getting better, and finished an Ironman. 5 years ago, who the hell am I to finish an Ironman? And now I've done it. So Great, great experience. And it all starts with the mindset. Once you convince the mind, the body's going to follow.
I bet you a lot of people in that cycling group would say, "Oh, I can never do a 29:029, or I can never do a triathlon," and there you did it.
Yeah, hear that all the time. People are successful in one area and can't get out of that area and be successful somewhere else or try something else. So anybody can do anything they set their mind to it. Absolutely convinced of that. And I've learned more and more of that as I get older, and certainly over the last 5 years.
So, talk about, you mentioned offline about doing it with a partner. Talk about that.
Yeah. So one of the, I'm up on this mountain, just climbing at all hours of the night and all day long. And there's things that are just going through my mind, and I'm learning a lot of lessons. And I always thought that, smart people know a lot of things, like they know this many things. But then intelligent people know something over here and something over here. But what's important is that they understand the connection between those two, and they have connections between all the things that they know, which makes someone super duper intelligent. So, I learned some lessons on the mountain, and I could apply them to anywhere else. So one of the things, you mentioned was don't go it alone, right? I saw people up there, everyone's suffering, okay? Because you're ascending this mountain. It's about a 2.5 mile hike up, and you're climbing 2,300 feet at a pop every ascent. And the people who were going in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 and having a conversation and helping each other along the way, those were the people I think that were most successful. I also saw some people who were doing it by themselves, walking by themselves, me being one of them most of the time. I was suffering alone. And as soon as I started walking with somebody or hiking with somebody, everything got easier, because you're changing your mindset, you're helping each other, you have this encouragement, someone else is working their way with you, and you're not alone. Look, that has direct applications to business and to asset management. You need a good team, you need partners around you, and people you can work with, learn from, and get encouragement from.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll sometimes reach out to a friend if I don't know an answer and say, "Hey, have you ever encountered this issue at your property?" And they're willing to help and help me. And it's, don't do it alone. You use your network, use your peers, because they're always willing to share and help you. And that's so important. And you also, you worked with a coach too, right?
Absolutely. On the mountain, there's coaches all over the place talking about nutrition, hydration, when to take breaks. And they had all this stuff set up. So there's not only coaches on the mountain. If you sign up early, there's training programs and coaching calls every 2 weeks. And they're talking about all these different things. So it's great to have those coaches available. And these are not just ordinary people, all right? These are successful people who have completed Ironmans, coaches for the Ironmans, very successful people in endurance activities. So that was the key, getting with the right people who are successful in that area to really improve your performance. And look, on my particular event, the goal was to go up 13 times. I only made it 10. I was not prepared, but everything I did with the coaches and working with people at the event, I don't know if I would have made 10 without all that. So it was great to have the coaches, great to have that support. And I'm going back next year to finish that event.
Awesome. I love it. And I mean, that's just a huge accomplishment in its own right, just getting to 10 out of 13 and just being committed to that. So kudos to you. What other lessons did you take away that have you applied to your multifamily business?
Oh, one of the key things was you have to focus on the very next step. So critical, because on this mountain, there's a lot of steep parts. There's a lot of rocky parts. There's parts where you can slip, you can slide back down, you can fall forward. Some of it's jagged areas. And look, directly applicable to business, right? If you have a challenge, so if you're halfway up that mountain and you're looking up at the top, that's way too far to be focusing on the challenges that are way in the future. Focus on the next step. Conversely, if you're looking backwards, wow, I came this far. Look how successful I am. I made it halfway up the mountain. And then you stop or you slow down or you quit. That's not good enough. So focus on the next step. Don't look up the mountain. Don't look years away. Don't look 10 steps down the road or whatever challenges you have. Don't look backwards on all the things you've already accomplished. Focus on the next step and keep going.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other aha moments from the event?
You have to love it.
Yeah.
You have to love what you're doing. You don't have to love all aspects of everything, but there's got to be something that you love about what you do. For example, being up on the mountain, I love the different atmosphere. I love being in the mountains. I'm from Houston. It is dead flat here. And just being somewhere different was very exciting to me. And I love that while I was getting my butt kicked. Also, I was training for an Ironman for a long time and getting into pools sometimes at 4:35 in the morning and the water's cold. I hated that. I couldn't stand that, but I love the smell of a pool. So that kept me going back, doing the long swims and all the preparation. I loved a simple aspect of what I was doing. I wanted to finish and be successful, sure, but there was something that I loved about each individual event that kept me going back for more. And in the business, in the real estate, I love putting together a project and walking through the details of the project and working with a great team. It's not always roses. Sometimes challenges come up, and sometimes they're big challenges, sometimes they're small, but there's always something about the process of growth that is very appealing. So love at least a small part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, no matter what level whether you're beginner, you're intermediate, advanced, there's always things that we have to do that you don't necessarily love. But yeah, if you learn to love it, take certain aspects of it, then you're going to finish it much quicker. You're going to be much better at it. So that's definitely great advice.
Yeah. It was a great learning experience. And let me just maybe finish with this. I signed up very late, very close to the event, and I didn't have as much time to prepare as I wanted to, and that's on me. So I did not engage in a lot of the coaching calls, so I did not know all of the coaches. So I showed up for the event, and it's a very high-end ski resort outside Salt Lake City in Snow Basin. And I'm down in a restroom, and standing next to me at the sink is this guy who, long hair, long beard, super duper short shorts, running shorts. And I'm thinking to myself, who's this guy think he is? This is ridiculous. If you ever seen Forrest Gump, like Forrest Gump running in his full glory with the beard and everything, that's what this guy looked like. Like, who's this guy? 10 minutes later, that guy's giving a presentation on stage. That is Coach Chad Wright, former Navy SEAL and ultra marathoner. So looks can be deceiving, and just be on the lookout for different things and embrace them.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. That's hilarious. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and adding value on how life and challenges outside of business can make you a better business person. In summary, mindset you talked about, and preparation and don't go out alone are all things that definitely you can bring back to asset management and multifamily. Please tell the listeners where they can find more about you.
Yeah, so you email me, help@chrisbystransky.com, and I got a couple giveaways. So I have a slide deck on this I can send to you. I also have 2 free chapters of my new book, Renting from My 6-Year-Old, that I can give those out. So just email me at help@chrisbystransky.com.
Awesome. I love it. To all of our listeners out there, thanks for listening. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes and Stitcher and subscribe, and review this podcast, which will help us grow our audience and reach more people. And if you want to learn more about what we do at Break of Day Capital, please head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.